Hey everyone, and welcome to my studio. I'm Jens Anso, and I'm just so overly excited about what you're about to see today. Today is something I've been looking forward to for so long. It's finally time to launch the AROS project. It's a project that I am so excited about and I'm so proud of it. The AROS is the second shop-built knife coming out of the Anso shop. And it all started this summer with the Anso Sheepsfoot. The Sheepsfoot was the first shop-built project coming out of the Anso shop. This project has so much sentimental value to me because it was designed 25 years ago and was the sole reason why I was able to go full-time. This project has equal meaning to me just from the whole process behind it and what this will mean for the future of Anso of Denmark. Everything started on this project with my desire to build a smaller folder, and in February in a restaurant in New York City I sketched this first version of the project that is now named AROS. Incidentally, I put a note here that said I had pappardelle with wild boar ragu at La Carota on the 27th of February at the same time as I sketched this design. So I actually think that has a significant meaning to me at that point. I do recall that dish and it was delicious. Some of you may already have seen this and even handled this. I was at Blade Show West in Salt Lake City and I had this prototype in my pocket. And a lot of you knew that because I believe I mentioned that on Instagram somewhere. I've been carrying this for, I would say, 2 months by now, just to make sure that everything works to my satisfaction. I've been testing it, I've been using it hard, I've been flipping it, I would say at least 500 times, just to make sure that the feeling of the flipping action is exactly as it should be. So I'm super comfortable having arrived to launch day today, and I can say with a lot of confidence that this is one of the projects that I'm most proud of. So this is a shop-built Anso of Denmark product, which means it's made here in Denmark in my shop. It's made by my team, and I'm just so overly excited about a project like this is finally possible to execute here in my shop. Shop build means that I'm less involved in the process. This is not your ordinary Anso custom. This is entirely built by my team. I have been so deeply involved in the process of reaching this far, but each individual knife is made by my team. I've spent so much time making sure that each process, each step of the way of reaching here has been fine-tuned to produce a superior product. You are in for a treat. I can tell you that. This is such a nice little knife. So if you don't have the patience to watch the entire episode here, at least not now, there's a link below. You can go in and you can click buy right now to get your own AROS. I do encourage you to watch the last of this episode because it's really interesting.
So Jens, I'm quite curious. When you say it's shop built, what does that entail?
I think the easiest way to show that is to take a trip through the shop, and I'll tell you. The shop is really quiet today. The team has a couple of days off, well needed for sure. But it gives us a unique chance to actually be here without the noise of the CNC machines running. Everything is made in-house except for the super nice titanium screws and the button lock button. That said, every part of the knife has been customized or changed to fit our need. So this is a sole authorship made knife made here in the Anso shop. All the parts are made on these 3 machines. We have the brand new, or by now it's a couple of years old actually, but the newest machine, the VF2 SS Haas, which was the main reason why we built this entire shop, was so we could get this machine in the door, or actually through the roof. The workhorse and my personal favorite machine is the Super Minimal 2, and the old lady here, which was my first CNC machine that I bought, 12 years ago. The parts for the AROS has seen all 3 machines. For instance, we machined the handles in the TM1. We've set it up so it runs dry with a vacuum, so we can run micarta, Ridge Light, G10 scales. The chassis is made either on the VF2 or the Minimal. We don't really have any reasons not to use both for that. The blade has been milled and finished in one of these machines as well. And then a ton of handwork goes into each knife as well. For instance, the blade has been stoned by hand to get a super nice finish before it's tumbled. The blade has, actually for the first time I believe, a laser engraved logo, Anso of Denmark logo here, and steel type RWL 34 on the other side. Really subtle little laser engraving here. Up until very recently, the shop more or less ended here with the grinding room and the tumbling room. But we got a little more space, so a couple of weeks ago we made a hole in the wall and then moved the machine, my excellent hydraulic surface grinder that I just absolutely love and have no clue how to operate, which is a little daring for me. I like to learn at some point, but that's just not enough hours in the day. This is one of the machines that, while I had or have an old surface grinder already and it gives pretty good quality, this one is just a step so much higher. It's a 20 grand machine, and it's one of those investments where, well, the result you get are just so good. But it wasn't a machine that I'd planned buying, but it was time. And it's almost like investing in plumbing in your house. It's something that you don't really consider afterwards. So it's money spent where it's, I could have used that for something else, because this doesn't produce parts, but it makes parts so much better. And that's really important. And that's really the story about a lot of the tools in this shop. A lot of it is investments to just add just a little bit of better quality on each part that we make. I pour so much money into this shop, but I can feel it in every single product that we make. But here is the new tumbling room, and we'll move all the smaller tumbler in here. I bought this huge tumbler specifically for the Sheepsfoot project and for the AROS project. And now it has a dedicated room. Up until a few weeks ago, it sat outside on the roof, but in a unheated area that we borrowed from our landlord. But now we managed to get the extra square feet and almost done building this new part of the shop. We're in the grinding room here, and this is what I've always called the Anso Grindmaster 2000. This is not the first machine that I built, but I believe it was the second machine that I built. I moved it out of my own shop and into the team shop, and now it's set up with a pretty dedicated job. Every single blade that comes out of the shop in the shop build has the initial edge set here on the belt grinder. Then we've moved on to the Tormach grinder and then do a final strop by hand. One of the reasons why I started the shop build projects was to avoid having me as a bottleneck in production. So, and setting the edge of a blade on a belt grinder is just super difficult, and something that I can do because of my 23 years worth of experience being a professional knife maker. That's a super hard technique to learn. So what we've done here is invest in a specialized platen for the grinder, and then you can have a rest where you put the blade, in this case here. You put the blade against the grinding wheel and set a rough edge. And that rough edge is then finally ground and polished on the Tormach grinder. After setting the initial edge on the belt grinder, we've moved on to the Tormach grinder and set a precision bevel here, which is later polished by hand or stropped by hand. And that's the final edge of the AROS blade. One of the personal challenges in this project started very early in the process, in that I decided this is a button lock folder. And just to explain that mechanism, it's a button in the handle. It holds the blade shut, it closes the blade, and it holds the blade open, hence the button lock. To disengage the lock, you press the lock and you close it. Incidentally, just to complicate things a little more, this is a flipper, and that required a ton of fine adjusting with the button's action so that it will flip easy, disengage easy, flip easy, disengage easy. This is the first project that I'm doing that has a button lock, and then I complicated things by making it a flipper as well. Why not? I'd like to take you through the construction of the AROS, because it's not just any other knife. In my opinion, I managed to create something that is rather unique. And to show you that, I'd like to take this apart. On most folders, this is what you would call the liner. I decided to call it the chassis because this is the overall load-bearing construction in the folder. The handle is there for show, to make it pretty. This is what keeps everything together. This is milled from a solid chunk of 5mm titanium, which is completely ridiculous and over the top, but the only way that I could get the exact result that we have here. This is a one-piece construction, and we milled away, I would say, 70% of the weight of the material by doing this. This gives the exact result that I've been wanting to get. The chassis is attached to the handle scale with one screw. And now we install the pivot construction, which is a pivot barrel, a screw, a load-bearing washer, bearing, stop pin, and now we install the button lock at the same time as the blade. This is a little cumbersome to get lined up, and this is the only way to do it. Getting the button into position is a little difficult, but once there, it actually sits there quite well. Bearing, the load-bearing washer, and just to illustrate that the chassis is the overall construction, I'll assemble it without the handle scale on just yet. Now you actually have a full functioning construction here. The handle scale here is there to cover everything up and make the final design as I wanted to. This is not part of the load-bearing construction, if you will. Now the only thing missing is installing the backspacer and the clip. And there you have it. 24 individual parts put together as the AROS folder. One thing that I wanted to make sure about this knife was to have a clip position that allows for a rather deep carry in your pocket. I still prefer that you have something to grab hold of when you go and get hold of your knife in the pocket. At the same time, a lanyard hole is super important for me. I want to be able to attach a piece of string or paracord or similar and attach that to my belt so I don't lose the knife if I go rock climbing, fishing, or something else where losing your knife would be pretty bad. So on the AROS, I went for a single-sided lanyard option where you enter from the scale side and exit from the backspacer, leaving the clip side open for placing the clip exactly where I want it. As a new thing, I decided that it was time to do a laser engraving on the blade. This is the Anso of Denmark logo. On the flip side, I have in a very small font engraved the steel type, in this case RWL 34. And if you flip it, I have the serial number engraved on this backspacer. What's really cool and what I really like is the AROS in the Ultim version. Ultim is a synthetic that is translucent. It's amber colored, and one of the cool things about it is that you can see the construction through it. And especially with a build like the AROS, where you can go in and you can see all the finer details that goes on underneath the handle scale. This is really where Ultim shines. With the knife just put together once again, I wanted to just backstep just a little bit to when I did the initial sketch in the restaurant. And when I started the process, I had this very clear vision of making a sub 3-inch folder for everyday carry use. Specifically, I wanted something around the 2.5-inch blade. It's a great size for use. You can use it for basically everything that you need in an everyday carry situation. And it's small enough that it carries without getting noticed by yourself or others. And it's a non-frightening size, which I think has some appeal as well. So let's check this AROS out and do some size comparisons. So this really shows how close to the original sketch the final product turned out to be. The blade length is pretty much on par. The handle length is pretty much on par. And the overall feel from the original sketch is, in my opinion, so close to the final product. So how does this knife compare to, for instance, some of my other models? Well, the Monte Carlo is a model that a lot of you know by now. And it's more or less the same size as the Monte Carlo. The blade is 2.5 inches long. The overall length is 6 inches. The overall length of the closed knife is 3.57 inches, which in metric is 63 millimeter for the blade, 90 millimeter for the closed length, and 154 millimeters for the overall length. By coincidence, this actually has the exact same length as a dollar bill, or in this case a $50 bill, which reminds me that this actually functions super well as a money clip. Now that we are ready for the launch of the AROS, as a matter of fact, when you watch this video, the product has probably already launched. Here are the different materials that will be in the initial launch. We have micarta, Ultim, carbon fiber, Ridgelight, and G10. Specifically, we have green canvas micarta, brown or natural brown canvas micarta. We have the Ultim, carbon fiber, black and brown Ridgelight, jade G10. Incidentally, this is also semi-translucent, and orange G10. And with this, we conclude this 3-episode series of making a folder, and in this case, the AROS, from the first initial sketch to the final product ready on my website right now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to hit like and subscribe and all that. Tell your friends. Let's make this channel grow. And please leave me a comment, because I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. Until next time, see you later.